All right, we live.
Peace and blessings, y'all. Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom with B. Lee and A. Johnny. We are here every Sunday to talk basketball and the GOAT conversation. As y'all see, it is Sunday, noon Eastern time. So here we are again with another great episode. As y'all know, we're going to keep bringing to y'all all the great things that we do. And obviously, we're going to keep coming with this criteria talk because we feel like we have definitely changed the game as far as talking basketball and how you basically rate players and how we judge players. So in this episode, we're going to talk the difference between what is a better player compared to a greater player. So that is going to be today's topic because there were some players that were put on the list that folks didn't like where they were ranked at. And as I stated before, most people do not know these guys' resumes to even state who's better than who. And we called everybody out. We told everybody come up with their own criteria, give us your point system, and show us how you rank your players as you rank them. So that's still the challenge that's out there for everyone. But we here today. We got, as usual, we got B Lee, we got my boy Shiloh's here, and obviously Chad is in the building. Say what's up to everybody, folks.
What's happening?
Yeah,
Everybody.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my homie Clay Young, a hero to his ego, a legend in his own mind. I know you're watching, buddy. I know you're watching.
Well, he is on
Yeah, of course he's watching.
he's on our Facebook group, and he's somebody that Bill Manning has been arguing with for a few weeks now. And I'm actually
A
gonna give
few
y'all a chance to come
weeks,
on
maybe
Friday night.
months.
Well, look, shout out to everybody that follows us on Facebook. Shout out to everybody that's a subscriber to Goat James Kingdom channel. We appreciate everybody's support. Make sure you hit the like button and share the content. Also, check out our membership. So, shout out to everybody. Appreciate you. What's good? Best of seven sports talk. Again, we're here to talk basketball. That's our job here in Goat James Kingdom. And we do it in Facebook. We do it on TikTok. We do it all over the social media platforms that are out there. But if you want Chad, just tell Clay Young to meet you on a Friday night, and I'll let y'all have it. Y'all can go at each other. We can have some
I've
fun.
been asking that man for months, dude.
They
He
won't show
knows
their
what'll
face.
happen. He
They,
knows exactly what'll happen.
they won't show their face. But what up, Craig?
Yo,
What's up,
We
Craig?
got Travis in the building. Travis is in the
Travis.
building.
What's good, Adrian? In the chat.
Yes, indeed, yes, indeed, man. We are here like we said every Sunday. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me clearly because I got to do a new microphone. Supposedly I'm heard clearly with the panel. So let's get the show going, Brandon. What you got for us this week, brother?
All right, so we've been going back and forth about the greatest players of all time. I know we made a list of the greatest players, and those have not been met greatly by most people, really, because they don't agree with certain people ranked in certain positions and the orders and everything. And me and Johnny has always been consistent of what greater mean. Who had a greater career? We have never went around saying who's the better player because you can't really measure who is the better player, but we can always measure who had the greater career. That's pretty straightforward. You just got to look at the numbers, the accolades, and there you go. So we created a list where we took all of that into account, who had the greater career. And there's certain people who are ranked higher that, we some people like, well, why are they ranked there? Like this player is better. Say for instance, when we talked about Tony Parker and how high he was rated. So where was Tony Parker rated at? Um, Let me see where he was rated at. We go back. Tony Parker was rated. Where's Tony Parker?
69.
69. Okay,
Yeah,
so Tony Parker
69.
was rated 69. So he had the greatest, he had the 69th greatest career of all time, according to our measurement, which, no one brought forth a better one than us. So this is what we're going to stick to at the moment.
And
So,
my Holloway, remember, it's
uh,
69 out of the 83, 84 players we graded. It's only 84 players we graded. So that's what he is to us. It's not
okay,
all the
so
players. We haven't done all players.
yeah, so 69 greatest career from our criteria. That's basically what it is. So, like I said, no one brought a better criteria than us to us, so we could measure something that's measurable without adding subjective things in it, like who is the better player. Like, I mean, it's clearly obvious Tracy McGrady is a better player than Tony Parker, but how can we measure that? How can we measure better player from a career? So I'm gonna give it up to you guys to, give us show us how we can measure how Trace McGrady is a better player than Tony Parker.
The easiest way is to look at franchise players versus role players. You can't be a greater anything if you third option on a team. Just my opinion.
Okay. I have a question. Would you say Gilbert Arenas was a first option on his team?
Who would he play with?
Okay. I'm
His
not gonna
best
go over who he
teammates were
played with.
Ron Butler
Who,
and
if you watch basketball, Shallow, you should know this. So, who
I
was
stopped
Gilbert
watching
Arenas
basketball
a
early
first
2000.
option?
If Gilbert Arenas is the franchise
I
player on
mean,
his team, he's the franchise
that's
player on his team.
that says a lot. But so are you saying that Gilbert Arenas is the number one option on his team?
No, I'm saying if Gilbert Arenas was the franchise player for his team, he's the franchise player for his team.
Shallow, please stop giving us material and just answer the question.
I just answered it. You don't like the answer. If he's the
What
franchise player,
you
he's
just
the
said,
franchise player.
you just said a third option cannot be a franchise player or a number one option. And this, if he's a franchise player, he's a number one option. Is that what you're saying? A
Oh, what I
franchise player
said
is not a
was
number one option?
what I said was if you the difference between better and greater, you can't be a great anything unless you are the franchise player on that team. You can't be the third option. Talk about you're a greater player than two other people that's better than you on your team.
Okay,
That's what I
okay.
said.
Let's just go with a franchise option. So Gilbert Arenas is a franchise option. So he could be in this great player conversation because he's a franchise option. Is that what you're saying? And a third option cannot.
Are you listening? Franchise
Yes.
player, not option. Franchise player. The player that you build your team around.
Gilbert
Like-
Arenas is one of those
Like,
players.
then what's the problem?
Okay, so that's what we're asking. you.
we
Is he one
trying
of those
to-
players?
Yeah, is
If
he
he's-
one of those
if he-
players? So
I'm
yes,
not,
yes, he is.
I'm not gonna go.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Okay,
So what's the problem?
we got that. Okay. You said a third option cannot, right? A third option cannot be a franchise player
Okay,
or
a third
considered
option
a
can't
great
be.
player. Okay,
No,
okay, it
what
can't
I'm
be.
saying
So,
is,
okay, I'll say I got it. So, are
obviously
you
know.
saying that? I was just trying to clarify it, just so we
Mhm.
all understand what you're talking about. So, are you saying Gilbert Arenas is a greater player than James Worthy?
No. James Worthy is a
Okay,
legit franchise player.
He's a
Can
third
go to
option.
no,
But he's a third option.
he is a legit franchise player. You can put him on another team and
He's a
build him.
third option.
Are you listening?
You could,
He's
no,
still
no,
a
no.
third option.
Are
Are
you
you
listening?
So,
He's
so
a
hold
third
on,
option on
hold
the
on.
Lakers.
Shallow,
But can he-
shallow.
can he
I'm at,
become-
okay, shallow. What makes you a?
You just said
No, wait, no, wait.
that
Stop,
you
I got
can't be in the discussion if you got two teammates
That ain't
better
what I
than you.
said. That ain't what I said.
Yes,
What
that's
I said-
exactly what you said.
That
That
is
is not
exactly
what
what
I
you
said.
That's
Y'all don't listen to
that's
shit.
why,
Roll the
that's
tape
why I'm
back.
trying to
Shallow,
clarify
you
for
said
you.
that a
didn't
player
say teammate,
be
and
a
none of his
franchise
responses, he
player
didn't
if
mention the
two
word
of the
teammate.
teammates
That's
is
why.
better than them. That's what you said.
What
You
I
said that if
said
you have two
was
teammates better than you, you cannot be the franchise player. That's
that
what
is
you
not
said.
what I said. That is not what I said.
Okay,
Word for word.
we
Word
get it.
That
We
is
get it. We
not
get
what
it.
I said.
Oh, that's not what he
Word
said.
for
Okay,
word.
That is not what I
okay,
said.
okay, y'all. Okay, Craig, can you clarify what Shiloh was talking about?
No,
Because we're not
no,
understanding.
Craig, you don't clarify what Shallow said. Shallow clarifies what Shallow said. The bottom line is, if you have a franchise player, which Worthy was, he was a franchise player. He just played with the Lakers. You put him on another team, you can build around him. That's all I'm saying.
A third player, a
players
third
are very
option can be a
defined.
franchise player. A third option can be a franchise player. That's what you're saying.
Look, was James Worthy a franchise player?
He's a third option.
He was a third option on
I'm
the
just
Lakers that had
going
Kareem
with
and
what you were
Magic.
saying.
My
It doesn't
question
matter.
is,
Talking about what you were saying.
James Worthy a franchise player?
We're not playing what ifs.
What?
Was he the franchise player for the Lakers, the team that he played for?
Do you understand
Was
the
he
difference
the
between
franchise
and
player
the?
for the team that he played for?
Do you understand the word and the? Is James Worthy a franchise player?
No, he is a third option.
He was a. Oh my God! Obviously, you don't watch basketball. Look,
I'm
James
Well,
Worthy
you
was
talking
don't.
about
You
what
just
you said.
admitted that you stopped watching in the early 2000s. So, I mean, what are you talking about?
James Worthy played it before.
I guess
the
you
early
didn't say that
2000s.
either, did you? I guess you didn't say that either, did
Didn't
you?
he? Didn't he, Bill? What year did Worthy retire? All right, then shut up. The point is
hold on, wait,
James
hold on, no,
Worthy
you're
a
not gonna be
franchise
telling.
player?
Hold on, wait, Shiloh. You're not gonna come on this show acting big boss when you just got called out. You don't tell people to shut up when you were the idiot that said the idiot comment that you just been saying.
It ain't my fault you ain't smart enough to understand common sense. I asked you, is James Worthy a franchise player? Is he a franchise player?
You just said that you
player?
cannot wait. You said that a franchise player is considered great because you are a franchise player. If you are a role player, meaning that if you are the third option on your team, you cannot be greater than a franchise players. Is that what you mean?
What I said was, is James Worthy a franchise player? Can you build a team around him? Yes or no?
Based off what?
Around anybody. You can build a team around anybody.
No, you can't.
You can build yes, you can.
No, Jordan Poole will never be a franchise player.
You can build a team around him.
No, you can't.
He's the franchise player in Washington right now.
He's the best player.
He's the franchise player in Washington right now.
Kyle Kuzma. Don't be coming in and disrespecting Kyle Kuzma.
Kyle Kuzma is not the franchise player.
Jordan Poole is not the guy.
Jordan Poole got the contract. He has the yes. He's the franchise guy.
They play bums all the time.
No, he is the franchise guy in Washington. Jordan Poole.
Kyle Kuzma.
That's from Golden State, though. That contract
does not have Jordan Poole's contract.
So he was a franchise player in Golden State. That's what you're saying when he signed the contract.
What?
When Jordan Poole re-signed with the Golden State, he was franchise player.
That doesn't matter.
That's what they
He's
gave
a franchise player.
Oh, wait, they gave him a franchise contract.
Yes, he's a franchise player because of contract.
Wait, how you think they got Chris Paul? Because of Jordan Poole's contract.
That ain't got nothing to do with being a franchise player, though, dog.
Yes, that is.
His playing ability makes him a franchise player.
Shallow.
So franchises are just paying players whatever they want, and that's not considered.
No, wait. Shallow. What makes you a franchise player?
Them being able to build around you has nothing to do with your contract. Bums
okay, how do you measure somebody being built around? How do we do that?
You could list. I could list off 100 names of franchise players, and you figure it
just
out.
What a franchise player is.
What are you using to say I'm going to build around this player? What is it the player needs to have to say that you can build around him?
Ask their GM.
No, I'm asking
you. So you don't know.
No, I don't know. That's what it is. I don't know.
For him, a franchise player is someone that's the leader of the team.
No.
Right?
Well, he can't. That's part of it. That's part of it. Yeah, absolutely. But he's the person that you can build a franchise around. I don't even know why. I feel a little weird having to explain this to adults. If y'all don't know what franchise players are,
because you're going back and forth. That's the thing.
Like you're saying, I've never changed.
You brought up franchise player and yet to explain it. You have yet to explain what a franchise player is. You have yet to explain what a franchise player is, and you claim franchise players is important. That's the problem right there. That's what Brandon and I are trying to have a conversation right now with you guys, is that you say stuff without having a way to measure it. You just said a franchise player makes you greater, but you can't tell us what a franchise player is.
If you don't know what a franchise player is, your show is lost.
No, I don't know because I didn't use it. I don't use franchise player nonsense. That's your logic. Where are you coming up with franchise player? I use their stats, accolades, and achievements. We just showed you that.
Oh, yeah, I did see your metric. That shit was horrible. Those Mickey Mouse numbers was insane. But that's a different story.
Because you can't.
So shallow. So shallow. You're basically saying a franchise player is a player that the team builds around. That's basically what it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
What if? Okay, I have a question. What if you're on the worst team in the league and your best player is averaging 15 points a game, and they have to build the team around the 15 points a game score? Is that player a franchise player?
No.
Okay. So it's not a player that you build your team around. That's all I wanted to know. It's not a player that you build your team around.
It's absolutely a team you build your player around. You said the worst. If a team is bad, I said the 15-point guy is not that guy.
But you have to build your team around that player because that's the best player you got.
No, you don't.
Team.
Oh, no, you don't.
Well,
because all you have to do is rebuild it in that situation. You rebuild. That's what you do. If your best player scored 15 a game, you need to rebuild. It has nothing to do with him being the most points on his team or having the largest contract. That is not a franchise player. That's a team of role players. Okay. That's literally a team of role players.
Okay, so
I feel weird having to explain this.
Okay, I just want a clear understanding. I just want a clear understanding. It's not the player who's the best player on the team that you have to put pieces around. So a franchise player is something else. I'm just trying to understand what that is. That's all.
What does franchise mean?
I don't
Let's
think he
start
knows
there.
either.
What does franchise mean?
Are you serious?
Let's
It
just
doesn't-
ask
You
other.
answered the
Let's
question.
let's
Yes, I'm
ask
serious.
everybody
You
else.
answered the
All
question.
right,
No, he doesn't
Shallow's not
know.
going to answer this. He's not going to answer
Is
this.
that a serious
Okay,
question?
Craig.
He
Craig,
doesn't know.
what
He
is a
doesn't know.
franchise player? Just Craig, just explain it to us, since you one of the
You
smart
want me
guys.
to
Oh, ask me
explain
stupid
y'all
questions,
argument?
man.
Yeah,
That's what y'all want me
yeah,
to do.
No,
yeah.
take
Come
one
on,
for the
Craig.
team.
This is what we need you. This is where we need you. Come on, let us know what a franchise player is.
I mean, for me, my opinion, when I think about the franchise player, I think of someone who has the ability to put a team on his, to have a team that be successful with, that they can, when a successful team is built, it's that person.
So you
I
have
mean,
to
franchise player, a franchise player, if you're losing, that wouldn't be. I mean,
Okay.
the obstacle is to, you're trying to win. So if you have a
So
player,
a team who could lead you to the playoff, a player who could lead you to the playoffs, is
I
that
mean, not
basically
even the
what it is?
playoffs. I mean,
All right,
just
the
to be
playoffs.
successful, win more games than lose.
Okay, all right. Okay. Travis, what's a franchise player?
So to me, as a franchise player is, it's someone who you can literally say this guy is someone we can count on to deliver every single night, superstar numbers, and we can, he's going to be, our piece, our rock for some time, and he can, therefore we can start drafting around him, making trades around him to complement him. I do absolutely see what Shallow was saying though. Like, there's a difference between your best player and a franchise player. Lots of teams have had, hey, this is our best player, or that was our best player this year. That could fluctuate, but I think it's a little bit more rare to say that, hey, this is the guy who will always be our best player. The James Worthy example was kind of a flash in the pan though, because that team was absolutely loaded. I don't know if you've ever seen that again. Worthy was drafted in '84. I'd say he became the number one option, arguably, in '88 onward, when Magic and Kareem started. Well, Magic was basically more, but Kareem definitely started to decline. But I see what you're saying.
Magic
He was
second
definitely the number one
MVP
option in
though.
the finals too. But yeah, I think just a guy who's your rock, your cornerstone. You can draft around him, and he's going to be that way for some time.
So for one thing, Magic was always the best player when he was with James Worthy. Magic was
Oh, I
MVP
agree.
when you
I'm
said
saying not
James
saying he wasn't
Worthy
the best
was.
player, but I'm saying Worthy was the number one option, like, let's say, for 90 to 91, especially just points per game wise. In the finals, he led them in scoring. Magic was certainly the best, but I'm saying he was probably the number one option as far as, like, getting a bucket.
Okay, so the number one option holds more weight as a franchise player, or he wasn't a franchise player still. That's what you're saying. It was still Magic, right?
I mean, who knows? He could have been, maybe. I mean, it was Magic, yeah, but who knows? Like, those are hypotheticals. Worthy have the talent to possibly be, but we'll never know. He played between two top 10 players of all time.
So Worthy could possibly be in the franchise player, play
Possibly.
next to the MVP of the league. Okay,
Possibly.
that actually makes sense if you don't think about it. But all right. So
I didn't say on the same team. I said
now on the
somewhere
same
else.
team. Okay, everybody knows James Worthy could have been a franchise player somewhere else.
You don't think so?
But of course, I believe everybody think James Worthy could have been a franchise player somewhere else. He's one of the top 50 greatest players of all time. I wouldn't doubt it.
MVP?
Yeah, he
What?
definitely could have been a franchise player somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what you talk about, Shotty? You don't think he could have been?
Shadow said he could already.
That is literally what I said.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking
Oh my
about.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Are we serious?
Yes, that's what he said. It's just that
But
I
you're
think
listening
that
though, right?
when you're
I was
looking at
listening.
teams like the Lakers and Celtics, it's tough
No,
because those
you're
are
not
like
listening.
one
Chad said that
generational
makes
team.
Yeah.
no. Brandon said that makes sense if you're not thinking. It doesn't make sense. You guys are giving James Worthy credit for something you don't have no proof of.
He could have been.
That's
I mean,
the
LeBron could have averaged 40 points a
No.
game if he shot every time. I mean, it could have happened.
exactly. That didn't
I
happen.
mean, could happen.
That's not what happened. James Worthy was never the number one option on any team he played on, ever.
According to Shallow,
I think the
Gilbert Arenas
confusion is
is a
here.
greater player than James Worthy. That's
The
basically what he
James
said.
Worthy was the number one option in college. They won a state title. Huh?
I want to know.
Wow.
I want to know what makes James Worthy better than Tony Parker then, because Tony Parker has a Finals MVP. He was a third option, a second option.
He's a second option. Matter at that.
Yeah, he was a third and second option, just like James Worthy, and won the Finals MVP as the number one option.
Who you talking to? You talking to me?
Has more
No,
All
you
NBA
don't
teams than James Worthy
don't
too. He has more All NBA teams than James Worthy too, and more titles.
So here's the
Who are you
thing,
talking to?
Brandon and Johnny.
All of us?
James Worthy would be a franchise player on another team. But see, this is where they twist the narrative. They're saying that you can't be a franchise player if your team ain't successful. All right, James Worthy could have been a franchise player for somewhere. Would they have been successful?
Listen,
And then by y'all's logic, y'all wouldn't call him a franchise player.
Kyrie Irving's not a franchise player.
Hey,
Well,
Chad. Let me ask you this question, Chad. Hey, Chad. Let me ask you this question. So, they're saying that to be a franchise player, you have to at least be above 500 and be successful in the playoffs. How many points a game did how many points a game did Jordan average in 1987?
87, 37.
Okay. How many? Do you know how many games they won?
Like
Can I
40
say it?
games.
Can I say it? Can I say it?
They won 40 games.
Can I say
Okay, is that above 500?
No, it's not.
So obviously that doesn't mean that you're a franchise player by their logic.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying. So Michael Jordan was not a franchise player until 1988.
What?
Oh,
I mean, that's their logic, Travis. That's not what I'm saying. That's their logic.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think we're overthinking this, boys. Like the original
Everybody
question
said
was,
something. He said something about contracts. It's everybody don't know what a damn franchise player is.
This is the franchise is a business, correct? So businesses do succeed and businesses fail, but that does not mean it's not a business or a franchise, correct?
Oh, let's do this.
So if a franchise is paying this player, whether he's worth it or not, if that franchise is paying that player max money and building a team around them, they are a franchise player. They may not be a great franchise player, but they are a franchise player.
Who's Boston's franchise player?
Anybody-
Tatum or
anybody-
Brown?
Uh-oh.
It's Brown until next year.
right now,
Uh-oh.
it's definitely Tatum, but I get it with the contract that went to Brown.
Uh-oh.
Right? That's your point.
Who can you build around?
You can build around both of them.
You can build around. You can build. Well, I'd say you can build around
Who
Tatum.
are
He has
you
a deeper
building around?
bag.
So who are you building around? Which player is actually Boston building around?
They don't know.
It looks like that they're building
Y'all
around
don't know. Y'all don't even know what
Brown
franchise
for the
player is.
future. It looks like they're building around Brown for the future. That's my opinion.
No, because Brown earned that contract because he'll go.
I
to
didn't
another
say he didn't
team.
earn it.
Wait,
I'm just
he'll
saying
go-
that it looks
he'll
like
go
the
to another
Celtics are
team.
building around him more than they are Tatum.
Okay, who's does Brooklyn Nets have a franchise player?
Well, yeah.
Who's that?
Who's the one that they're building around?
Who's the player? Name it. You said they do have it.
Well, I don't know. I don't keep up with the Brooklyn Nets.
They just signed Mikal Bridges to a big contract, so that would mean they were building around Mikal Bridges, correct? No,
Exactly.
no, they're not building around Mikal Bridges. They're not.
I
building
didn't say
around
no. I
Mikal
said
Bridges?
exactly. I said exactly.
Shallow laughed. Are they building around Mikal Bridges or not?
I didn't say anything.
I'm
The fact
asking
that
you
you
to say
focus
something.
on a person's contract as denoting who's their franchise player is the most ridiculous thing I've heard all day.
Franchise players get the
10
biggest
what?
contract.
10 years.
So they don't.
Actually,
So
they don't.
franchises
For 10 years-
and
for 10
businesses
years,
do
Jordan
not
was
pay
done.
their best employee the most money, right? Is that how businesses work? They do not pay their best employee the most money.
Tell me who's getting paid
Anybody
more
know
than
what Michael Jordan
his first
contract was until his last two
Who's getting
seasons in
paid more than
Chicago?
who is
He
getting
still
paid
made more money than everybody on that team.
Does
Who
anybody know?
exactly?
He still made more money than everybody on
Pippen
that
got
team.
paid more than him when he signed his
He
contract.
still made more than everybody on that team.
No, he didn't. He made it
After-
through
Yes,
endorsements.
he
He made
did.
it through endorsements.
Pippen made
Oh,
Pippen made
okay.
$2 million
Through
a year.
endorsements.
Jordan was making 2.5 a year. Jordan was making more money than Scotty. Scotty just got a longer deal as far as more money is the bigger contract. But Michael Jordan was making more money than Scotty Pippen.
Isn't that what a contract is? Isn't that what a contract is? No. Michael Jordan signed a
So that means Michael
smaller
Jordan was the
contract
franchise
than
player.
Scottie Pippen, didn't he?
Huh? No, Michael Jordan was making
Exactly
more money
my
per
point.
year
You
than
keep
Michael
claiming-
Jordan. I mean, than Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan was making more money per year than Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen made more money for his
signed a
career because he
larger
went and got $100 million from the
contract
Blazers. That has nothing to do with
Jordan.
nothing. Jordan was making $33 million a year, 97 and 98. The biggest contracts in NBA history at that time. Nobody was nowhere close to that. You don't know history, like I always told you. You don't even know what a franchise player is. We've been talking franchise player for 20 minutes because you brought it up.
A bigger
and you have not yet to tell us what it is.
Longer than Jordan. I already told you. It ain't something that needs to be explained.
No, it's
For a
not.
person that
Jordan's
runs a
contract was 10
basketball
years.
channel, it shouldn't be.
Jordan had a contract for 10
Go
years.
look it up again.
His first contract.
Go look it up again.
I looked it up.
Okay, all right. So let's
look it
get
up
back to the
again.
conversation about better player versus greater player. So that's what we got off of this tangent on franchise players. So let's get back on to a better player versus greater player. So let's move it to Craig. All right, Craig, can you try to explain, if you can, the difference between someone's better and someone's greater in the NBA player?
Greater is the results of your ability. Better is your abilities in itself.
Okay, how can we measure those? Results, that's easy. That's easy to measure results for greater. For better, how can we measure better player? Because I know you said skills and abilities. Just like we said, Tracy McGrady is definitely Tracy and Penny Hardaway is definitely a better skill wise than Tony Parker. But how can we measure that?
I mean, you can measure it by their production as well. It's just like I said with the greater, it's with the success is more like you said, basketball is a team sport. So if you're saying the person had a greater career, is mainly because of what their team did, mainly so. But that's why he has the rings, and Tracy McGrady and Pitti doesn't. But the ability is what what you get from your stats, and just the results of their stats didn't go to winning.
Okay, so would you say that Penny and T-Mac is better than Tony Parker, but Tony Parker is a greater player for his career?
Yeah, I would say Penny Hardaway and Tracy McGrady is better than Tony Parker. Tony Parker just had a better career, basically what you just said, a better career based on where he played and how he played.
Why do you use T-Mac and versus Parker? Is Parker above T-Mac in that list?
I believe so.
That's crazy. Where's Barkley?
26.
Well, the reason why I'm giving that reason, because that's one of the simple things to measure, because Tony Parker's career has been greater than those two. Tony Parker's the first ballot Hall of Famer, 4-time champion, Finals MVP. So he's obviously going to have a greater career than Penny Hardaway and Tracy McGrady. But I think we all will agree that Penny and T-Mac were better individual players, but we can't really measure that. But we can measure greater by what Craig said, results from their career. So that was the whole point of our top 75, well, top 50 really ranking, was who had the greater career. And I know when we had Horace Grant on there, people was kind of up like why is Horace Grant on there? Like he's not that great. But when you look at his career, when you look at his career, what he did in his career is not bad at all. I know Chad been saying this for almost a year. He had a pretty good career.
Come on now.
One All-Star game. Horace Grant did not have
4 defensive teams is a lot. 4 is a lot.
Compared to what?
To the 15, that's the max.
He had what 1,100 games. I mean, come on, bro.
With that games count.
1,100 games means you're a great player, my friend. If you play 1,100 games, that's good.
That doesn't mean you're a great player. That doesn't mean you're a great player.
But with his numbers,
I mean, you stuck
attitude,
around.
yes. No, you don't stick around.
Hey, so players can just stick around even if they're trash, and the NBA teams are still going to give them contracts.
He was a starter.
Kevin Willis.
Championship.
As long as the team still give them contracts.
He was the third option on more championships than James Worthy, Chris Bosh, Tony Parker, all of that.
He played with Jordan, so yeah, I get that.
No,
he played with Shaq.
He helped Jordan win championships.
Stay like Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh.
Double with Michael Jordan and making all the
Chris Bosh and Horace Grant. Chris Bosh and Horace Grant. Horace Grant's numbers went up in the playoffs. Bosh just went down.
Thank you. And yes, and also yes, all of Horace Grant's numbers are better in the playoffs.
Yes, go look. Don't shake your head. Yes, go look.
He don't
Horace
know.
Grant's numbers go up from the regular season to the playoffs.
No,
and Bosh is still
like I didn't say shit about Bosh. I didn't say nothing about Bosh. That's why I'm shaking my head. Like I don't understand the comparison.
We're talking about. We're just naming.
I didn't bring up Bosh.
No,
Chris Bosh is the first ballot that Horace Grant's numbers are different that with him.
Do you think Chris Bosh is a better player than Horace Grant, Shiloh?
No.
You don't think Chris Bosh is better than Horace Grant? So Horace Grant is better than Chris Bosh.
Thank you.
I'm a defensive.
Chris Bosh is the first ballot Hall of Famer, and Horace Grant's not in there. Why do you think that is?
Is he better than Chris Webber?
Because who Horace Grant played with?
Is he better than Chris Webber? Is he better than Chris Webber?
Who? Grant?
Yes.
No. I'm gonna say no. Okay. Because the difference.
So you had to think about it. You had to think about it, though, didn't you?
Is he better than
you had to think about it, though, didn't you?
Damn, can I answer? Shit. Damn.
Hey, Horace Grant's my dog, man. I go to battle for that dude.
Okay, congratulations. The reason I thought about it is because Chris Webber was a legit franchise player. Horace Grant would never be a franchise player.
How do you know?
That's false.
How would you know? How would you know?
That's false.
He was drafted 10 to the Chicago Bulls. And by the time that he left the Chicago Bulls, no, he wasn't going to be a franchise player. But I believe in his first 5 or 6 years, he could have been a franchise player. Why couldn't he?
Nobody.
If James Worthy could be, why couldn't he? If Chris Webber was, see?
Get the
tiger by his toe. Catch the tiger by his toe.
Please catch this tiger by the toes. You gonna let me answer? You ask the questions, but I will get an answer.
Go ahead, answer.
Can I get an answer and not a dog chasing his tail?
Are you
let
done?
the dude answer.
Are you done?
Let him answer.
God, leave boy. You need to mute him. The reason I say that Chris Webber is a legit franchise player over Horace Grant, because Horace Grant, he did get drafted to the Bulls. That sucks for him because his career got overshadowed. Who knows what it would turn out? We're doing ifs and what ifs or whatever right now. But what I'm telling you from what I watched, he couldn't go to another team and then build around him. He's not a power forward like a Karl Malone or Charles Barkley that's going to run the floor, that's going to give you 30 a night. Now, don't get me wrong. Dude got his points. He got his double-double like AJ pointed out in the first few years with the Bulls. I get that. But he is not going to be that dude that you like, you know what? We need we need 2 points or 2 free throws. Let's give it to Horace in the post. Never going to be that guy.
And all of that is based off of your eyes, which is why it's all false.
You want to use his numbers? You want to use his numbers? I mean,
so we're going to use his numbers now, knowing that he's a third option on the Chicago Bulls.
I mean,
Chad, I got this, Chad, I got this, Chad. Listen,
I can't use my eyes. I can't use the numbers. What do you want me to do?
Because
they want you to agree with them.
Do these numbers. If Horace Grant is drafted into a 30-team league, he is going to be the number one option being built around. And he's going to average more than 14, 15 points per game as the number one option. Because he's going to get his 15 to 16. Because he can shoot. He shot over 50% for his career. He has a good mid-range shot. He was a good post-up player. He actually has the skills. I've seen him play.
On the level.
And he averaged 14 points as a third option.
Of Charles Barkley, and
listen, is Chris Webber on the level of Charles Barkley and Karl Malone?
Yes.
No, he's not. Where? What? Based on what? Based on what?
College.
Oh my God.
What are you basing
everything in his freaking career? What is wrong with you? His whole career. His was legit. You saw him
so you're
too.
basing it off.
And his numbers.
No. You're basing off the fact that Chris Webber was drafted in a league that had 29 teams compared to a guy who was drafted to a league that had 23 teams. So Chris Webber was able to be a number one option because there's more options. There's no more number one options. There's 6 more teams in the league to make him a number one option. So you're giving him like off the results. You're going off of the results. Like we're going off of the results. And the results tell us that Horace Grant is better than most of these players you want to talk about. But you want to put him up with we didn't say he's Karl Malone or Charles Barkley. That's not what we're saying. We're telling you that if he was drafted in 2004, we're doing the ifs because you just told me James Worthy was a franchise player if he wasn't on the Lakers.
I didn't say anything about James Worthy.
No, you jumped in. You jumped in, and
I said UNC.
You jumped in to get slapped for that. You jumped in to get slapped for that because you were defending him for saying.
I said in college he was the number one option.
We're doing ifs because James Worthy was number one option. So we can't call James Worthy.
I said college he was number one option. He was number one option with Jordan as a teammate. James Worthy.
James Worthy.
James Worthy was not a number one option. He was always the second or third option. Magic Johnson.
No, he said in college. No, he said in college. He said in college.
Horace Grant was the number one option in college, but you didn't watch basketball in 1985, Craig.
See, look, he want to go. I'm telling you.
Craig, did you watch the college that he went to in Georgia or Clemson? Did you watch Clemson play basketball? Did you watch Clemson basketball in 1985, Craig? Did you watch Clemson basketball in 1985, Craig?
What that got to do with what we talking
about? That's what
Horace
Grant was the number one option in college.
What?
How you think he got drafted as the number 10 pick because he was a role player in college?
What are you talking about? I'm talking about James Worthy. Why are you?
No, I'm talking about Horace Grant being a number one option and franchise player. But the fact that he's
asked me about James Worthy,
just like James Worthy,
he just asked me about James Worthy. Why are you bringing up Horace Grant?
Listen, Craig, y'all don't fucking listen. This is what I'm telling you. James Worthy was not a franchise player because he was drafted in a 23-team league. Same thing with Horace Grant. If they were drafted in a league that had 30 teams, he might have had Chris Bosh or Kevin Love's luck and been on a scrub team and built around them and not go nowhere and put up all kind of numbers. But you wouldn't call a franchise player because you have to be successful as well. Y'all have yet to explain to us what a franchise player is other than the results. And the results say Grant is a great player.
No, he had a great career.
What year was Grant the lead team on the Clemson?
So again, junior year? So your career don't make you a great player. Your eyes make you a great player. Is that what we're going to tell me? That's what we're going to do?
I just explained it when Brandon asked me.
I asked you what year. I just asked you a simple question. What year was Grant Hill the man for Clemson? His junior year, his last year?
Grant Hill never played for Clemson.
Not Grant Hill, I'm sorry.
Horace Grant.
Horace Grant. What year?
He was drafted.
I give you a clue. I give you a clue. It wasn't his first or second year because he wasn't the franchise.
86, he was drafted 87.
His last year. So
that means he was the first option before he got.
So now Jordan's not a franchise player because he wasn't the number one option his first year in college. So is that the route we're going?
He was the franchise player for the next two, and we never said anything about Jordan. We talk about Worthy. Worthy was the man on his team.
You're trying to discredit Horace Grant because his first 2 years he wasn't the number one option in college. Jordan wasn't, but yet
I'm just pointing out facts, bro.
You're not. You're pointing out your opinion.
That's not facts.
You're right. So okay, let me give you some facts then. Horace didn't become the man until he was a junior. There's dudes above him. His sophomore year, he had 6.8. His senior year, he had the most on their team. Jordan, when he played with Worthy was the man on the team. Worthy leaves, Jordan becomes the man for the next 2 years, regardless who he played for. That's all we're saying.
Does Grant's junior year make him the first
option? So Grant didn't do the same thing.
That's what we're trying to say. Grant did the same thing. That means when Grant was coming out of the NBA, and if he would have went to a 30-team league, he probably more likely would have been a franchise player, just like James Worthy and Chris Bosh.
Now, so we can stop hearing that expansion hurt the league.
Okay, Craig. What does what I have to say have to do with the expansion era?
I'm just saying. You said he would have had more opportunities if You saying
Okay.
it's a bad thing that they had less teams in the league?
So what does that have to do with the idea of where you're drafted depending on the years? What does that have to do? What does the expansion era have to do with anything?
You just said if they had 30 teams, he would have had a better chance of being a number one option on the team. So I'm saying,
okay. So what does that have to do with the era of expanding being good or bad mean? What does it have to do with anything?
I'm just saying that you just getting a good example of it. All I hear is expansion is bad for the league. So this is my surprise that someone actually saying expansion is good for the league. This is the first time I'm ever hearing that.
Again, y'all thinking that Horace Grant.
Chat. Listen, I got this, chat. Again, where did you hear me say that the league going to 30 teams was a good thing out of this conversation?
To help Horace Grant be a number one option. That's your
I don't
argument.
need to help Horace Grant be a number one option. I'm giving you context, Craig. I'm giving you context, Craig, because what you're trying to say is depending on where you're drafted, on what team you're on, makes you a franchise player, because we're still confused on what makes you a franchise player. And I'm explaining to you that if there's only 23 teams, there's not that many franchises. So that means how many players can actually be a franchise player, whether they have the ability to do it or not. If there's more teams, obviously there's more options for players.
You could supersede somebody. Your abilities could be better than somebody where you go and overthrow them and become the franchise player. How many times a player came in and
what
took over?
Skills do you have to overthrow a player to become the franchise player?
You have to be better than the player that they got. LeBron was better than Wade.
So the best Miami. Franchise is a franchise player, correct?
I hear you. You broke up.
The best player on a franchise is a franchise player, then, correct? Because we're not even going over the fact that you have to actually be successful. So now it's just to be the best guy, you have to somehow.
I can give you an example for everybody's argument about what franchise player is. So if we're gonna do that, you can give your version, and I can give you an example.
Okay, is Tony Parker a franchise player? Is Tony Parker a franchise player?
He was in Charlotte.
So you're proving our point. There you go. You're proving our point.
I'm saying I could use everybody's opinion about what I could bring up a player to fit everybody's narrative of what a franchise player is. You talk about contracts, I can bring up Kyrie being the highest paid.
Did Charlotte have a draft in 1987?
What? They had a draft
in 1987.
They came in 88.
So they didn't, right? Did the Minnesota Timberwolves have a draft in 1987?
No, they came in 88.
Did the Toronto Raptors have a draft in the 1987 draft?
They had it in 95.
Okay. You know how many players became franchise players because of those franchises?
3.
From your logic?
3.
More than 3. Vince Carter's a franchise player.
He was.
By Toronto Raptors.
Born in the great era. He was born in an era where they had more teams for him to be in.
Okay, so who's a franchise player? Shaquille O'Neal or Penny? Because they were both drafted high, and because Penny was drafted to a team, so that means Penny's not a franchise player?
He became one.
Because
how do you become one? Because Shaq left?
Yeah. He became the man in Orlando.
So you're giving players credit for being something that have nothing to do with them. So it's not even your skill no more.
So now there's 2 franchise players from one team. Now there's 2 franchise players from one team. That wasn't there in 87. There's two franchise players from one team that wasn't there in 87.
I'm done. I exposed them.
You exposed nothing but yourself.
You
Please stop
nobody.
doing it.
Because y'all are
all right, guys. Let's get back on track. Johnny's quiet now.
Hey.
He's quiet now. Let's get back on track.
I gotta go, B. I gotta go. We about to go to the movies, man.
All right.
I appreciate y'all having me, though. Johnny, you my favorite, bro. AJ is my favorite. I love arguing with him. I'll try, bro. Y'all have a good one.
All right, see
you want to use ifs and ifs to fit his narrative.
I mean, that's
y'all brought the ifs up first,
what you guys said. That's what you guys said. Okay, all right. It's Travis' turn. All right, so Craig, you gave a pretty good definition of greater and better. So that was actually pretty good. All right, Travis, can you explain to us what a better player and a greater player is?
Yeah. So, also, I'm echoing here.
That's cool. It's cool.
So, I think your list actually did a great job of that. Like I said before, especially like using them. It used some things in there that I said I would tweak, but I'd say the difference between a great player and a better overall player as far as their career goes is you can use the peak. I typically use between like a 5 and 7 year peak of players that I'm ranking as far as I use athletes, sure, but it's mainly about the metrics, like their stats and their advanced stats during that time. And I think that when you're using that metric, a lot of the quote unquote better players will rise to the top as far as, again, just the numerical value. Not saying, again, this is, like you said, completely different from better career versus just who was a better player. And I think that's a pretty decent way of measuring.
All right. So you're saying you measured our peak. How do we measure peak?
Like I said, it's between, I think, generally between a 5 and 7 year measurement of whatever player we're looking at. Generally, if you take their best years, we'll again give you that sort of okay, who were they in their peak when they're at their best compared to somebody else.
Okay. Okay. So let's try to do that. Let's do something easy. Jordan, what is Jordan's peak?
I'd say Jordan's peak was probably between 87 and 93, arguably.
87, 93. So in 96 to 98, you don't consider that in his peak, but would you consider that in his prime?
Yeah, no, Jordan arguably had a 10 year prime, but I'm just saying when you're looking at just a hey, this is the best comparison for most players because, like we said, best players on average their career only lasts between 4 and 5 years. I'm saying your absolute peak for most players will generally be between 5 to 7 years. I mean, most offensive production, generally your defensive accolades will come in too, and then there's some exceptions, sure, but I'm saying as a rule, when you're looking at most players that we're talking about today, we're not talking about 2,000 plus players, obviously. We're talking about, hey, who we consider the best. Generally, you'll see their peak around those times. And we can look at their years. We don't have to say only beginning of their careers. We can say, hey, this was their best 6 years and compare them to one another.
I disagree.
So what would you say Jordan's peak, ended at 93? Was it because his numbers were declining after 93?
Slightly, I would say that he didn't. He wasn't the same player on defense that he was in between that time. Obviously, his scoring wasn't as explosive. I think he was a more polished scorer, but I'm saying as a total, he wasn't averaging 3 to 4 steals a game. He wasn't averaging 2 blocks. He wasn't as explosive. I'm saying if you look, he had the absolute best. His advanced stats went down a little bit, but I'm saying from that time, 87, 93, I'd say was the absolute best peak.
Okay, so before we move on, I'm gonna move on the route. So let me just ask you this one question: you think Michael Jordan in his years from '96 to '98, if you put him in 1989, would you think the Bulls would have won a title?
Hold on, say that again, Brandon.
Okay, if you take Michael Jordan from '96 to '98, put him in 1989, would you think the Bulls would have won a title?
No,
What about you,
because
Travis?
that's the end of his. That's the end of his prime. That's like towards the end of his
He didn't
prime.
win a title when he did
Me,
average
me
32 every
personally,
week.
like peak is normally a 3 to 5 year. I mean, the 5 to 7 years normally a prime. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, okay, Ralph. Okay, so Travis, like I was saying, Michael Jordan in '96 to '98, you put him in 1989. Do you think the Bulls would have won an NBA title?
In 1989,
Yeah.
I doubt it. Just because,
Okay.
again, I don't think he was that same force
Okay.
that he was from, and plus, the supporting cast was nearly as good as it was
Okay.
in like '96.
Okay, Craig, what you think?
I mean, he didn't win. He didn't win when he was putting up better numbers at 89. How you going to decrease his numbers and think he's going to still win? I mean,
Okay. All right.
yeah, that's basically it.
All right. So I have a question for Chad and Johnny. All right, so you take LeBron in 2018, you put him in 2009. Do you think the Cavs would have won a title?
No,
What about you,
say
Chad?
he would have got to the finals. I don't think he would have won it.
Wow. 2009.
Yeah.
That's Kobe's first chip without Shaq.
No, he said it would have won a championship, but I mean he didn't win a championship in 2018 either. So
Yeah.
could he had because 2018 LeBron was way better than 2009 LeBron. To be honest with you. Jesus Christ. I think he could have. He was a way better player then.
Okay. I think Michael Jordan was a way better player in 1996 than he was in 1989. I
I
believe
Mm,
agree
Michael
with you,
Jordan.
Brandon. I agree
Yeah,
with
I,
you,
He
I,
had
Brandon.
better
yeah, I
health
believe
in
Michael.
1996 than he
Yeah,
did in
he had
89.
better help too. I believe Michael Jordan was a complete at his best player in 1996. He wasn't
I
as
agree
athletic as
I
he
agree
was in
100%.
89, but he didn't need that athletic ability to win titles in 96 to 98. So take that part out because that don't really matter. Michael Jordan as a smarter player, a better shooter,
Better
better
teammate.
leader, better leader, everything would
Yeah,
have
that's the
won in
thing.
well,
1989.
his lateral quickness in '89 was way quicker than what it was in
That
'96.
doesn't really
That
mean anything.
yes, yeah, it
Allen
does.
Yeah, it
Iverson
does.
lateral
Yeah, it does.
quickness was top notch, and he couldn't win the title. So that doesn't
Nah,
mean that you're a better
but
player.
but Jordan's a better defender than Allen Iverson. Allen
Who was he?
Iverson, he played the
Who was gonna eat
passing lanes
Jordan up
more.
in 1989? Who was gonna destroy Michael Jordan defensively in 1989?
But his lateral quickness, as far as his first step and everything, was way faster. To
Okay,
where he
we
was a better
understand that.
scorer as well. So that
Yeah.
nah, I can't say that.
So you don't think that like you said, the '96 version, it was more of a like using Travis's words, a
No, it was a
polished
better.
scorer,
It was a better
a better
team.
teammate, a better
That was
teammate.
that whole team in '96 was better. That's what made the team what it was.
But
That's
he was
why they
also a
won the
better
championship.
teammate in '96 than he was in
Are we really
'89.
arguing about Jordan winning?
Being a better teammate and actually doing things on the court is two different things. My thing is, it's like you're comparing Jordan in
But he did all
'96,
that stuff and didn't
which
win,
hold
right?
on, hold
He
on,
did all
wait a
that stuff.
second. Let me finish. Let me finish. In '96, that team was so good. Like it was a really good team. That's the reason why they went 72-10. You can't compare that version. Like you're taking a version of Jordan, which is
So
not. He's
that
lost
same team
lost
in
a lot of
'89
his
didn't go
step.
on to three-peat.
Oh my gosh, dude, you keep on cutting me off, bro.
Yeah, Chad, let him talk. Let him talk, Chad.
It's like
Well, I mean, not that way. You got to write a novel, or it's going to be 14 things that I'll have to answer when he's done.
Just let him talk, Chad. Let him finish.
it's like that version of Jordan. He lost a step. He's 32 compared to in '89. He's in this. He's like 26. Like it's a big difference because he loses his first step. He loses his lateral some of his lateral quickness, his athleticism. I mean, the jump shot is still there, but and also you got to look at the team as well. At '89, that team is different than the '96 Bulls. Big difference.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, Chad.
Pippen
You
is
don't have
one
to. You
year
don't have to
all
answer.
time.
You don't
One
have to
year,
answer.
'96. That's prime Pippen.
Okay, so basically, you're saying that to be a better player, you don't have to lead your team to a title. Like that's not always meaning that you are the best. So just like Chad, I mean Trav was saying, from 80 was 7 to 93, Michael Jordan was at his best, and we're going to take his prime and measure that versus everybody. And it doesn't matter if someone won titles that year. That doesn't mean that you're a greater player, even though you won NBA titles. Just your athletic abilities, like Ralph was saying, your first step, your quickness is how good you are on defense. That what makes you a better player.
Oh, that
You know,
that's
your
the I'm
production.
sorry. I did come
Yeah,
in late. I had a long
yeah,
night, fellas. My bad. Uh, this is the discussion is better and greater.
yeah.
Oh, I can I share that my opinion on that?
Yeah. You go share your opinion.
I think what you accomplish in your career is what makes you a better player. I mean, I don't think that you're looking at skill wise and say, "Oh, you're a better player." No, I don't view that. It's like a player comes into the league, what you accomplish and everything is what makes the player better than the other. It's not a one-on-one game.
Okay. So I know we was talking about this before between Tony Parker, Trace McGrady, and Penny Hardaway. So between Trace McGrady and Penny Hardaway, would you say that just looking at their skill wise that they're a better NBA individual player than Tony Parker? Not taking any stats or anything. Would you say that those two are better players than Tony Parker? Skill
Tracy
Yes.
wise.
McGrady, Tracy McGrady, and who?
Penny Hardaway.
Penny Hardaway.
Yeah.
I think they have a better skill set.
Okay. All right. But would you say that Tony Parker is a greater player for their career than those
Yes,
two?
he's a greater he has a greater career of what he accomplished in the NBA over
Okay.
those two.
All right. So I think we all on board like what makes someone's better and what makes someone's greater, right?
I
Like a
think
greater talking about their career, what they accomplish,
I think
and
when a lot of
better is
go ahead, I'm
mhm.
sorry.
No,
I'm sorry,
go
go
ahead,
ahead, go
Ralph.
ahead.
No,
I
you
think
go ahead.
when people say a better player, they talk about skill set. And
Mhm.
I think that's not a great way to view these players because like come on, their skill set is what they produce on the court and when they produce on the court is what they accomplish on that court as well.
Well, not
So,
necessarily. So, Ralph, let me ask you a question.
hmm
So, Ralph, let's say you and I are in the same league, right? And I'm
yeah,
dropping 30 and 15 a night. You're coming off the bench and you're dropping 10 and 5, but your team wins 5 consecutive titles. Mine never makes the playoffs. You accomplished more than me, right?
that's
Does that
a
make you a better player?
that's not a great example because you're comparing a bench player to a starter.
But even a starter, you're a starter. Same numbers.
Same numbers as a starter.
Yeah.
Skill wise, you're better than me, but as far as having a being a better,
So
mm,
I'm better at basketball than you.
I have a better career than you.
Yes, you
I,
too. But I would
I,
smoke you
I,
on the
I,
court.
I, but it's not a one-on-one thing. We're in the NBA, so
That's
you
not the
can't, you
that's not
can't.
the debate
What are
at
you
all.
talking?
The debate is who is a better player versus who had a better career. Clearly, Tracy McGrady, especially during his peak, was far better than Tony Parker. But Parker has way more rings and accolades because he played
He has a better
along two
career.
top 20
Okay.
players of all time,
Okay,
arguably.
Travis.
Well, one
Travis.
year.
Travis. Let me ask you this question: Who will win in a game of one on one? Trace McGrady or Isaiah
Or
Thomas?
Trace.
Tracy McGrady.
Okay,
I don't know.
so
That's tough.
yeah,
What?
so
Isaiah's
that
nice.
so so being better one on one does not make you a greater player.
Not
Isaiah
greater,
Thomas is
better,
currently
yes.
a greater player than Trace McGrady.
Tracy also put up way better numbers in his prime than Isaiah Thomas did.
Tracy McGrady's prime was like a 3 year prime compared to Isaiah Thomas. He got a longer prime, and he put up amazing stats. Man, averaged what a double double
Did
within
we take the
what 5
numbers?
years or whatever.
Did we take
Yeah,
the
for his
inflated
career,
numbers on Luke and
if I'm
Penny
served
into
correctly, he
consideration,
almost averaged a
or is
double
that not
double
a
for his
thing?
career.
I'm saying is this is a clearly a separate question of like two different things. I'm not arguing that these people had a greater career, but you're trying to say that made them better players also, and without any context or anything.
Me personally, I don't have the better player argument. I don't like that conversation because they're not playing one on one in the NBA. I don't have that conversation.
Well, it's not even one on one. It's like you can look at their numbers.
Who was more important for their team based on their numbers?
Like you're just saying their numbers, but you got to look at the whole totality of their career too, as
Why?
well, because that's what they accomplish on the court.
Yeah, I'm saying you look at your peak.
No, I'm looking at their whole career.
Career.
Okay, so that's without context. Because Tracy McGrady probably would have had a way longer peak if he wasn't like injured. But we can look at how dominant a force
Trace
he
McGrady
was.
played.
What from like circa
Hold up.
If
2001
if
Trace
if
2005.
if
Tracy
was a
McGrady
fifth, I'll be
played
drunk.
10 healthy seasons straight. Isaiah Thomas played 11 healthy seasons.
Okay.
So
All
that
right.
doesn't really mean anything.
So would Tracy McGrady still put up those numbers if he had better teammates? Or would they go
Probably.
back?
Of course
He
not.
would still be
He
the
would
number one
accomplish
option.
more. He
He
would
would still
accomplish more.
average that with better teammates. No, yes, you're right, Ralph. I'm asking, would he still have averaged and won league titles? I mean, scoring titles if he had better players on his team?
Probably yes, because there was no one who was going to come close to his.
Fair enough.
Yes,
Mm. If Grant Hill, okay, we're gonna go
he was going to be the
hypothetical.
first option regardless.
If we're gonna go hypothetical now, you got to understand Grant Hill was that dude before he got injured, so I can't even say that.
Yeah, if he played healthy Grant Hill, most likely Grant Hill would have been a leader scorer on that team, not
Yes.
Tracy McGrady. But like we said, we can't do hypotheticals. We're only looking at
They
what
the
they did in their
original
career. Like
Kawhi Leonard and Paul
yeah,
George.
this is the reason that me and Johnny did this list. Like, I know you guys are basically getting a understanding of why we did it, because we just did by their careers.
No, I've said I love your list.
Mm-hmm. But I know, Trav, you're saying that we should like do something with their primes, but everyone's prime is different, so it's not going to be the same.
Well, no, that's what I've
Like,
said.
yeah.
You can look at their best years, but everyone does have a prime.
Yeah, everybody does have a prime. I agree with that.
Yeah, I said you don't have to look
But
at.
and I also agree with Brandon. Everybody's primes is different.
He said
Like
peak.
some,
Though. He said peak. It wasn't prime.
well,
It was
peak. I
peak.
mean,
Yeah,
I meant
prime
said
peak.
peak.
It was
I'm
peak.
sorry, I meant say
Yeah,
peak.
that's the
Everybody
same
has a
thing.
different
Everybody's
peak.
peak is different. Yeah.
Because peak to me is like, when you're at your best, and 3 to 5 years is your peak normally. That's a normal peak. A prime is like a 5 to 7 year span.
But a
Anything
peak
after
doesn't
that
have a
is
plateau.
extraordinary.
I never understood that. How does the peak have a
Yeah.
plateau?
I don't
It's
know.
it's like when you
Guess what I'm
look at
saying,
their
Brandon? Do
peak.
you know what I say about peak having a plateau, Brandon?
Yeah,
When I say that,
you know that they always talk about this, and then LeBron just destroys it because in 2000, like 6, 7, we can all say, some people will say that LeBron was probably the best player in the league, but at
No.
his best, it was probably 2018 when he was at his absolute best. Like,
Mm,
how do we measure that?
I wouldn't even
Like,
say
how do
that.
we
No.
figure out?
I think 2013 was the
Yeah,
best version of LeBron.
2013 is better than
That was
2018,
the
in my
best
opinion.
That was the last
because
time.
like
So
he was
2013.
That's in my opinion his
look,
best.
he was the best offensive player and arguably the best defensive player. Like that LeBron
Yeah,
right there. Yes, 2013
2018
Yeah,
was.
LeBron.
yeah. LeBron in 2018 did not go all out in the regular season like 2013
Yeah,
LeBron James. So
and he
that's
didn't
why
win a
we
defensive
can't
first
really
game either.
measure it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
you
can't
look.
really measure that because when you go to the playoffs and you see LeBron James in the playoffs, what he did that year trumps everything that he's ever done in the NBA in the postseason. Even though he didn't
Well,
win a title, he was.
well. Go
Even
ahead.
his teammates were saying the same thing. Like, that was the best LeBron James that we have ever seen in
Sure,
2018.
but we're just looking at hardcore numbers, and the numbers say 2013 was definitely his best season, especially statistic or from a efficiency perspective.
That man
Are
was
you
shooting
It's like
57% for the
wait,
whole season.
like you
wait,
said,
hold on, wait,
2018.
Travis, you said we are going off the concrete numbers. LeBron James averaged 26.8 points per game, 8 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 1.7 steals, and about a block per game in 2013, shooting 56% from the field, 40 from three-point land. His
That was
free
cool.
throws were 75%.
And
right?
first team all defense.
That
Okay.
2013, yeah,
In
that was
2018,
crazy.
27 and a half, 8.6 rebounds per game, 9 assists per game, 1.4 steals, a block per game, shooting 54% from the field, 37 from three-point land, and 73% from the free throw line. So
And no first team all defense.
He scored more. He got more rebounds. He got more assists. He had the same blocks. His efficiency went down 2 points. It was from 56 from 56 to 54. His
54, yeah.
3-pointers went down 3 points, and his
His
shoot went down.
efficiency, yeah, his
Yeah.
efficiency will
But
His
he
make
played
efficiency went,
he played, he played 82
his
games.
efficiency went down,
He
and
played
he was
82
not
games.
nearly the defensive player he was in 2013.
He played 82 games, which is all the games in the season, but he also played all the
So
games in
2013 was better, LeBron.
And
Period.
based on
and
what?
the
Just
funny thing,
off
yeah,
the efficiency? Just off the efficiency.
the efficiency along with the scoring and everything.
No,
What
he
was
scored more. His
the? Now
scoring
I
and
got a
his
question. Hold
rebounding
on,
and assist was higher in
hold on.
2018. The only thing that was lower was his efficiency and
But
his
he didn't
which
scoring.
was
have
still
another
off the
20
charts.
point scorer on that
Which was still off
2018
the
team.
Now
charts.
hold on.
He was
Yo,
still
Now
this is
I
still
have
off the charts
Johnny.
again. This game.
What was the turnover difference as well?
The turnover difference between that is 4.2 to 9.1, so that's about 2.5 per one. And in 2013, it was 3 turnovers to 7, so it's about the same, 2.5
All
to
right,
1.
yeah, it's about the same.
He scored one
He had
point
less.
better
He
than
had
he did
he
in
had less turnovers.
2018 with
He had less
nobody.
assists in 2013. He had more turnovers and more assists in 2018.
And you got to look at the 2013. His on ball defense was way better.
So it wasn't 18. They just didn't give him
It,
the nod for it. He played the same kind of
Well,
defense.
he
No, he
actually
didn't.
finished fifth. No, he actually finished
18.
fifth in the defensive player of the year voting in 2018. So
In
they
2013, I think he
recognize,
was second.
yeah, they recognize that he was a great defender. They just didn't vote him on an all defensive team because
Yeah,
Okay.
he was a great
He
defender.
was second. He was second on the 13. That was a big hoorah
I'm
because
gonna say he
they
was
felt like
fifth
he was
in
robbed
defensive player of the year voting in 2018. Like he was still a
compared to
great
second.
defender.
Yeah, but
So
what I'm saying is he was a better defender on
So he didn't
2013
drop
though.
off defensively. That's what I'm saying. Just because they
Uh,
didn't vote him into something doesn't mean he wasn't defensively good
well,
at the time.
sure, but Brad,
I'm not arguing
you're
that.
missing the point is he still had a measurable peak, and I'd say it was between 2008 and 2013 where he was at
No,
his absolute best
that's
version of
that
himself.
is that's your opinion. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, you can
Like
measure it statistically too.
you can't
I don't
measure
even.
that.
We,
I,
We
we, we
just
I
just
don't
said
went
even.
off his stats,
statistically.
and you was
I mean,
wrong.
we just did it. Like you can't just say
Yeah.
that this is what I think. This is what his peak is. No, no. Just like I was saying, Michael Jordan in 1996 was a better player than Michael Jordan in 1989. Like that's my opinion. Like you can't really measure that. I believe Michael Jordan would have went to 96, would have went in 1998 and won an NBA title because he would have been the smartest player on the court and the best player on the court every single game. He was better than he was in
Well,
1989. He just didn't jump
unless
higher.
you have a team that always don't
And,
work out for
and
you.
that if we're gonna talk about like if he would have won a championship, like you also got to look at the team around him as well. That team in '89 wasn't as good as '96. That's
That's
why I
because
say I
Jordan
don't
was
really.
doing everything. Jordan wouldn't be
Because he
doing
wouldn't
everything in
pass the
96
ball.
and 89. He passed the
Okay,
ball, took all the shots.
Ain't
I doubt
nobody
that.
Well,
Nah.
89 was his
that's still
best
iffy. Again, that's completely subjective.
because
Just like
Pippen
you
and
were
Horace
saying,
Grant was the
Travis.
only their second year, so they
Just
wouldn't
like
have
it's
been
subjective
that
saying that
good.
he wouldn't have won in 89 if you put him in 96 and 89. It's all subjective. Like,
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
it's
It's
all
not one
subjective.
sided.
But I'm saying, okay, 96 Mike didn't average like between 2 and 3 steals a game. It was just like, okay, 96 Mike was, I'd say, the more polished scorer because he added
And the
the
better
protective version of his
teammates. He would
fadeaway.
have got his teammates involved more,
But he
which
Right,
would
didn't.
have gave
right,
them more
89
recognition.
Mike
right,
averaged
right.
32, 8, and 8.
Okay. So let's get back. Let's get a better understanding of this. You're saying that because Michael Jordan was athletically at his most dominant in 1989, that he was better than later in his career, 96 through 98. Okay, we get that. So what I'm trying to say that when you're at your top of your game, just because your production is not as much like LeBron and Jordan production early in their careers was very high. And once they start winning, it was lower because they were better players. You take LeBron James in 2018, put him in 2011, I believe everyone would think they would won a title. That does not mean that LeBron James was more athletic in 2018. He was definitely more athletic in 2011. I believe the same thing would have happened in 2010 because he was a better player. And I believe Michael Jordan, when he was a better player, smarter player, understood how to save energy, he would have definitely won those titles when they didn't win those titles. And Michael Jordan, 1991, we all know he won the title. He was amazing. He averaged 30 something, 8 and 8 in the finals because he was an athletic beast. We
11,
get that. He would have won. He would have
11 and 8.
11. Yeah, 11 assists. Like it was crazy. Like he would have won titles. But I'm saying that later in his career, when he was just as smart, he would have won that title in 91 still. Michael Jordan in 1996. He would have won that title in 1991 as well.
I mean, if you put
He
that
was just a
Bulls
better player.
96 team,
I disagree with that.
if you put the 96 team 89, then yeah, but you can't. That's my whole thing because, like everybody says, championships it's not.
He was smart. He was smarter, but he's not.
89 Bulls team that would have helped him that drastically to win a title that year. Who won the 89 Bulls team?
91 Bulls Mike was, or 91 Mike was better than 96 Mike.
I said that he was probably the best he ever been, but 96 Michael Jordan would have won a title if you put him on that team instead of the 91. I believe they would have still won because Michael Jordan was that great, that good. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, sure. I mean, that's not like a wildly inaccurate opinion or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't argue with that till I died. I'm just saying, is 96 Mike dropping 32-11 with like 8 assists and 3 steals?
No, but I know.
No, but his teammates would have had more points per game.
Would they have? He averaged 11 assists.
Yes, they would have.
How?
Because he's not taking as many shots. He didn't take as many shots in 96 versus them. So
it doesn't matter. He still had the most assists ever for a winning team, winning person in the finals, winning player.
Okay, so if he shot the ball 3 times less and passed the ball 2 more, they wouldn't have accumulated for those 2 extra points that you're arguing.
He wouldn't have shot it 3 times as much.
So he would have had 30 points and 14 assists instead of 32 and 11.
So tell me, so 96 Spike averaged 27 points in the finals, right? On 44% shooting.
Okay.
Right? What did 91 Mike do?
Wow, he was probably a lot better than that.
I was 42%.
Yeah, Mike averaged 31 points per game, 11 assists when that was on, well, if I believe I'm correct, about 53% shooting.
Yeah.
He was just a different animal.
There again.
Okay. So you guys saying just because Jordan won those titles doesn't mean that, that was the best version of Jordan, basically. Like Jordan not winning a title in 19. Yeah, Jordan not winning a title in 89 and 90 were better than Michael Jordan when he won those titles. That's
I think his IQ was better.
No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying that.
What you saying?
No, I said that when you take a sliver of his career, I believe, again, this is all subjective. There's nothing that's written. I'm saying I believe his absolute peak as a player was between 87 and 93. And you can measure that with advanced metrics, his overall averages per game, both on ball, defensively, especially defensively. But I mean, you can do it any way you want. You can say that, yes, 96 was a fantastic year, and I agree. But I'd say his absolute peak, especially on both sides of the ball, when you're measuring that, was on that low side. Was he more intelligent as a player in 96? Absolutely. But I'm saying you can't just drop him in any year and say, hey, he was more polished, he's going to win. Because that doesn't hold, that's completely subjective. Is it a bad opinion? No. But I still believe that you could replace 91 Mike and they automatically would just have the same exact result. Because he was just insanely on top of his overarching peak at that point. Especially on, again, like I said, defensively. Yes, he relied on his teammates a little bit more in 96, and I think that's a big part of the reason why they had success. His team was also better than it were in 91, big time. But, I mean, it's tough to play the what-if game all the time.
Okay. All right, well,
I just don't see it. I mean, like you said, that the 96, he was the smartest player because he had to play with what his body allowed him to do. he couldn't do the things he was doing in '89. So of course you gonna have to adapt to what your body can say you can do. Nah, you is not jumping from the free throw line every play. You're gonna sit here and you're gonna learn this, you're gonna perfect this fadeaway. But yeah, and plus with the team, like if you say the '96 Bulls, you put them in '89, yeah, but you can't take one player on a team like that was stacked like that and then compare it to the team he had in '89. His best players was only in the league for 1 year. His best team.
And I want to put this out here, like with LeBron, like that '09 year. Like if you look against the Magic, regardless of what version you get LeBron, I mean, you look against the Magic. He did as much as he could for that team. It
He
wasn't
needed help.
him. I don't blame him for that '89 because he played phenomenal. Like regardless of what version you get, I don't think they beat that Magic because they had that mismatch with the White. The White was killing them. They had nobody to guard him, and then their players were shooting from the outside with Hedo Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis. Like there was, I don't think no version would have been able to beat that.
I mean, LeBron would score like 10 straight points by himself, and then Magic would go on like on a 10-2 run when he on the bench. I'm like, this shit.
Like LeBron was crazy in that series. Like he went bananas, and like regardless of what he did, it's like the Magic they just had the better team. They just had the better team from the roster point of view. So like,
they definitely had a better team. Yeah,
so that's just like an '89. Like I say the same thing. You put any version, like the Pistons was better. Like they were better.
Okay. All right. So you guys are agreeing that 1988 through 93 was Michael Jordan's best.
I'll say 88 to 93. Yeah, that 5 year.
88 to 93.
I say that was his peak.
Same?
I would say that was his peak.
You could put his rookie year.
Nah, a peak is when you're at your best. Not only just from a statistical point of view, it's like the maturity of your body and everything. So I agree, 88 to 93 is his peak.
Okay, Craig, you basically agree.
Yeah,
I know. Travis agreed. So those years, why would that make Jordan the greatest player of all time? If you're just saying like at his best, those would have been the best years of his time. Why would that make Jordan the greatest player of all time?
Because a lot of it to me has nothing to do whether they won championships or not, is what he did as an individual more so. And we all know championships don't make you great. It just looks nice on your resume. But he did.
I disagree.
So what specifically makes Michael Jordan the greatest player of all time from that time period?
Like I do agree that the championships do matter and it has effect on your career as well, because like we wouldn't look at Jokic right now if he didn't win the ring. So yeah, it does have something to do with it.
Okay, yeah, I know. Like Jordan was amazing, but what makes that the greatest player of all time?
I look at the whole career. I don't just look at partial of their career.
Well, I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
Let Travis answer that because he was the one who stated the whole thing.
Yeah.
So first of all, just want to tell Bill here. So Mike in '91 actually took fewer shots than '96 Mike did in the finals and put up better numbers. Just saying. Okay. So to answer your question, Brad, you can look at it I'd say that was the best peak of all time. Not only from an average perspective, his points per game, assists, everything combined, but he also had arguably the best advanced stats per game. He had the highest WARP ever in 1988. He had, I think 3 of his 4 seasons came during that time period. He was first team all defense every single year and won DPOY in '88. He had 3 steal titles. He had arguably, that's when he established arguably the highest box plus minus and win shares for 48. So from every way you want to measure it, that peak included basically the best player all around that we've ever seen. Not talking about rings or anything like that. Even if he didn't repeat, we can just say if you put that 5 or 6 year sliver up against anybody and you use everything, averages, accolades as far as defensively, and you use advanced metrics, Arguably, that is the greatest player we've ever seen during that time period.
Okay,
introduced you to Wilt Chamberlain.
let me ask you this question. Yeah, Chad, I know. So they didn't have those advanced stats when Wilt Chamberlain played. Would you think that his advanced stats would have been higher than Wilt Chamberlain for 5 years?
Didn't have Defensive Player of the Year either.
Yeah. So do you think Michael Jordan would have been higher than Wilt Chamberlain for 5 years if they had the
I don't
same
know.
measuring stick?
In certain things, yes.
Like what?
Win shares. And probably,
Winchester 48.
yeah, wins from 48 for sure. But I would say Walt will probably have him in Warp for sure because Warp's a ridiculous stat.
Yeah,
And
probably blocks, steals, points, VORP, probably PER, who knows? But I believe Wilt Chamberlain would have had astronomical numbers if they defensive players of the years, more seasonal titles. So
yeah,
I think it would be
Walt's a
close.
freak.
yeah,
I think it would be
so
close.
basically, you're saying Michael Jordan is the best because of what he did statistically was not better than Wilt Chamberlain. So we cannot really use that. But I think you're trying to add in titles as well, right?
No, I said without the titles.
No,
Without
without
titles.
titles, Wilt
It would have
probably
been Wilt.
would trump him.
Well,
If
okay,
you're going off
we're
of
using the if
stats.
though because we
It
we
would
don't
be
have that
close.
data.
Yeah, I mean, if we're
We
going
had
off
the
of that
points per game,
hypothetical,
we had the assists and the blocks per game.
if we're going off of that hypothetical, if you're talking about off of just stats alone, I think Wilt would have got Jordan. But if you
Absolutely.
I
count,
know my
if you
opinion on
count,
Will. He's the greatest
if
stat pad of all time, in my opinion. That's how I feel about Will.
if you look at the whole totality of that 5-year peak, I think Jordan would edge him. But if we're talking about just off the stats, yes, I think Wilt would have
How
got him.
would Jordan edge Wilt?
I said whole totality, which is also,
Travis,
the rings and the finals MVPs and all that.
What
Yeah,
was-
he
Yeah,
would he would
Will
edge him.
averaged over 44 points a game for 5 consecutive seasons. Did Jordan ever do that?
what was the advanced metrics we wanted to use again?
I said from a statistical point,
Travis.
I give it. I'm answering Bill real quick.
Oh,
I said from a statistical point, I give it to Will. I said that. But if we're talking about the whole totality, I edge Jordan.
Why do you edge Jordan? What is it from the totality from?
Because it would he would get him with the rings and the MVPs 3 years in a row compared to Will. I mean, not with Bill. I mean to Wilt.
no, we could. MJ would only have 3 MVPs. Wilt would have 2.
Final.
And
Same
the
amount of
final
scoring
MVPs
titles.
as well.
Same amount of scoring titles.
Finals MVPs and the rings too.
So we're not gonna. We already know.
Well, see, a majority of Wilt's career, even if he did win championships, wouldn't have got a Finals MVP. Just like he wouldn't have got a Defensive Player of the Year because it did not exist.
But he didn't win it.
No, but hold wait, Travis, you said there was an advanced stats, the metrics that we can use, because I know we can't use VORP and we can't use box plus minus. What are the ones that we would use? Okay, so
they had offense and defense, right?
Offensive win shares for Michael Jordan was 95.4 in those times between 87 and 93, and Wilt Chamberlain was 91.3 for his, which I got him from 1960 to 1966.
Okay, sorry, I think what was your question?
What were the advanced metrics you wanted to use?
What was the
you can use with Mike, you can use anything. You can do PER, Winchester 48, Warp, box plus minus.
No, for Wilt Chamberlain, because Wilt Chamberlain we can't use the VORP and we can't use box plus minus. So you want to use PER. Jordan's PER between 1987 and 1993 was 30.4. Wilt Chamberlain's PER between 1960 and 1966 is 29.8. So will we say Wilt Chamberlain's peak started from his rookie season?
He won the MVP his rookie year. Did he win the scoring title too?
He won the scoring title 7 years in a row.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna start from 1960 to 1966. All right. So let's go to so Jordan got him in offensive win shares, which is 95.4 to 91.3. Defensive win shares, Wilt Chamberlain has him with 50.1 to 36.8. Total win shares, Jordan's 132.2. Wilt Chamberlain is 141.1. Win shares per 48, Wilt Chamberlain is 0.266. Jordan is 0.285. And we can't do box minus O warp. So Jordan has
what
PER.
what is the PER? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jordan has the PER. He has him 30.4 to 29 something. So Jordan has PER, offensive win shares, and win shares per 48. So he has 3 out of the 5 metrics that we can measure for them.
It's very close because the gap with the defensive win shares is just a huge gap.
So
That's
like I
why
said,
I said it's very close.
That's the best player that's ever played during those years.
And if we really want to go to their stats, which is also the important part because most people don't understand the advanced metrics. If we go to Jordan from 87 to 1993, Michael Jordan averaged 33.2 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 6
beat Will with the
assists,
averages, so we can
3 steals, 1 block.
All right, Johnny. Now look at how many games were won. Look at how many games were won.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. That's a part of the statistics to the 48 win shares. Yes, sir.
The win shares for 48 is actually
calculated. It counts for team wins. Yes, sir.
So win shares for 48, Jordan got that though.
Yeah, Jordan got win shares.
Yeah, because his team won more games.
Michael probably won that too.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain's per game average between 1960. There you go.
Crazy.
Wilt got the
crazy.
average.
We you don't even need to say that. We know Wilt got that.
What do you like? 44 and 20?
No, probably 30.
It's 39.6, 25 rebounds, 3.5 assists.
You know how many shots you got to miss for someone to average 25 rebounds every game?
Yeah, like I said, from a statistic.
But that's trying to shoot over Wilt too. That's trying to shoot over Wilt too.
I give that to Wilt, and like it's very close when you look at the statistical point of view. But Wilt got it. But when you count everything, that's when I'm like, all right, I give that to Jordan.
Jordan has
when you basically
when you start counting team accomplishments. That's
so when you basically count their careers, Jordan will edge them out. Basically, when you count the total career.
Oh, didn't he edge him out during that 5-year period that we just talked about?
No, he didn't edge him out.
You said he beat him in 3 of the 5 analytics, right?
Out of how many?
Statistically,
three categories out of how many?
5.
There's more 5 because you got him statistically.
Yeah, statistically is Wilt.
Yeah. So how many categories are we counting there?
He said overall, totality.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall it'll be Wilt.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
No, overall is Jordan.
It was Mike.
Because within that span, Wilt got 1 championship, and he would have had the Finals MVP.
You got to add in the team accomplishments to do it. We get it.
What?
Yeah,
add in the team accomplishments.
It will be Wilt Chamberlain.
But they still accomplished that. Like they both was the best player on that championship team. So it's like, yeah, you count it. What are you talking about?
All right, you can't count the final MVPs, but you can all say they did. He still won more championships than him. If the final MVPs don't count, right? I mean, we can all agree that every championship that Wilt Chamberlain and Jordan won, they was the best player on their team. So
Wilt got 2 league MVPs, correct?
No, he got 3.
3? What years did he get him in?
He got 2 within that span. He had 2 within the span that we put in between 1960
okay, because I'm about to say he got 3 in a row.
He's got 2
Wilt
in
got
there.
4 MVPs, but
he got 4
I guess the span you're talking about. Yeah, he got 4 in his career.
Yeah, the span we're talking about between which is our second, because we're talking about the peaks.
So he's got 3, and within that time, Jordan got 3, right?
3.
Yeah. And like I said, the Finals MVP as well, which Wilt would have got that 1 when he won that championship.
But
Jordan got 3.
But none of this still breaks.
Hey, gentlemen, I got a dip actually for a minute, but
we're about to get
I'll catch the rest of the show later. I just something came up.
We're about to get up out
Okay.
of here shortly, anyways. We're about to get up out of here because
All right,
Brandon.
we'll see you guys.
So listen,
All
the point is, I guess what Brandon's trying to state is that either all of this, it still sounds like what we did is the best way to determine who's the greater player. And he's the best player because you guys are using stats, which is what we use. You guys are using accolades, which is what we use, and you guys are using analytics, which is what we use.
I agree. I think y'all use exactly what you need. I mean, everybody has their different formulas, though. I mean, other people use different formulas to
What formula can
measure
you
'em.
use? Because that's what I wanted to bring up when we did the show, Ralph. Because I forgot to bring it up at the end of the show. What is the formula we can use?
I haven't thought about that, but I've seen different formulas out there. Like
It's
I
it's
showed
the
you
best
one. I mean,
formula.
Can you
If you
can
look
you
at
give me at least a reference to one? Then something that you can say that's a better formula, or at least
The only thing
or
about
a
this
formula.
formula that
I
it
mean,
will
I'm just
actually
saying in
change.
general, other people use different formulas to determine that
Who? That's what I'm saying. Who?
within the
Because I
same.
haven't seen anybody do it.
I,
That's why I want to know who is these people.
formula is not the right word
well, like I said, I don't know how they
because
did it, but I showed you that AI algorithm. They use a different formula. Don't know what it is, but they use a different formula.
hey,
right.
Ralph,
All right. All right.
Everybody has that.
All
Ralph,
right. So and so, Craig. Hey, hold up, chat for a second. Hey, Craig. What would you add different? Because you said you add something different. What would you add differently?
No, I'm just saying this formula. I don't have no issue with the formula. Just the only thing is because y'all use whoever has the most of something, it will change, and that'll change. That could possibly change the whole order of it. Like let's say, someone wind up making the finals 13 times and doing all that. That can change everybody thing on the list. So just one change in the concept.
Yeah. Well, just like every player that comes in as great, they're gonna have to be put somewhere. So something's gonna have to change no matter what. So if there's a player who wins 13 titles, I'm pretty sure they would be somewhere in the top 10 as well.
When Jordan won the fourth Finals MVP, he changed the narrative on how great Finals MVP was. But now he has 6. That's the difference. That makes a difference. That's why it's called against the greatest accomplishment. If you are able to be the greatest at something, that should count.
this is
If you was, yeah,
this
that's,
is
that's
why the criteria. This the only reason I don't like the criteria is my personal opinion, and that's what I think people are confusing with formula. Because this formula that you used is the best way to use it by taking the name off the back of the jersey and just strictly looking at the numbers.
Well, in order for you to measure that, you got to look at other formulas to see that.
Because
You don't know
that's
that.
where this conversation come from on who was greater versus who were better. Because this formula really just took the name off the back of the jersey and put the body of work up there.
Like I said,
That's why
you
people had a
don't know
problem with
that.
Horace Grant. What do you mean I don't
That's
know that?
because you don't know other formulas that calculated and everything. You don't know that. So I'm not saying their formula is bad, but the other
You
Formula
people
don't
is
have
know.
not
their
an
other
opinion
formulas.
There
debate.
is because there
Formula is
is
not
no
an
other
opinion
one.
debate.
There is no other one. That sports science one, whatever it is, please send me the list and send me the criteria. If you don't know the
I s-
criteria and their formula, then there is no formula. We gave you guys
you
our
can't just
formula.
say that.
Yes,
That's
because no,
disingenuous
Ralph,
to say
we
I
that.
mean,
gave you
Nah,
guys our formula. We don't
look,
know their formula. We don't know what they use, how they graded it, how they measured what. We don't know nothing. So off the top, it's oblivious to us. We don't know that. So it's not a formula we can actually talk about because we don't know it. So how are we going to talk
there's
about something we
like
don't
like
know?
no one knows it. No one knows it. We're just saying that we think there's something better, but
no, I'm
what?
not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's other formulas that has different ranking with players. You don't know. I mean,
Because I've
yeah,
never
I'm not.
seen
I'm
it.
not.
I've never seen it. Even
But
the thing
there's
they've
other.
never seen it. They never told us why did Tim Duncan score more than everybody to be number 2 on that list. They never explained that. They never explained it. They just threw a list out there and didn't explain nothing.
No, he did explain it.
Exactly. It's an
He did
No, he didn't.
explain it.
He had no.
He didn't
He had
explain it to the full
no, Ralph.
extent.
No,
He didn't
Ralph.
explain it to a full extent. He gave the basics
So
of the
who?
formula.
So who, Ralph? Who did he give that explanation to?
What do you mean?
Who created that criterion formula? Provided the information about that criterion formula. Who did they provide that information to? Who's the person that told us about this?
They
How do
gave
we
it to
know? Huh?
they gave it to Fluent, and Fluent
Okay, so we're
explained it
going
the
off
best we
of
could.
Fluent's private conversation. Was supposed to be the guy that did the criteria. Is that what you're telling me?
He explained the correct. He
Well,
explained it.
no, Fluent explained his private conversation because it was a private conversation. The guy did not go on Fluent's show and explain
So
it. Supposedly, Fluent had a private conversation with somebody who was a part of that specific
what you implying
criteria.
on that then?
Huh?
What are you implying?
I'm implying
That
we
we
don't
don't
know.
know. Basically, we
We don't
don't
know.
know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
You know our criteria. You know our formula to the T.
So you're saying that formula was a bunch of bullshit?
We
We're
don't
saying that we
know.
don't know it.
We don't know,
We
bro.
don't
We
know
I
just
what
think
it
don't
we're
is.
know.
saying the
We don't know
same
what's in
thing.
it.
No, so,
Yeah, we
so
just
that
don't
means
know what's in it.
that means that criteria is not like ours. If you're gonna ask me which one's better, I'm gonna tell you ours because you know ours.
How do you
All
get a
right.
better performing? How do you get a better formula than taking everything
I'm not.
totality?
See, you keep on talking about better. I
Now
didn't
it's
say
narrative,
anybody
narrative
was
outside
better.
of this. It's
I
somebody's
didn't
narrative
say
outside of this.
better. Why you keep on saying that? I did not say anybody's
Okay,
formula was
Ralph,
better.
Ralph just said
I'm
there's others out there. Okay, there's others out there.
that's my point.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
others out
other
there.
formulas out there
Yeah,
that
it
you
it
have rankings of players. It's like
doesn't mean it's better or worse. There's just others out there. That's basically what he's saying.
Well, no shit.
Well, I don't know none. I don't know of none. I haven't heard of none. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So we just basically took everything that we could measure, and we tried to evenly distribute it across all players that we could measure. So if there was other data that we could measure, we would include that. But there's data that we could measure that the older players were not able to, actually track. So
well,
that's why a lot of things could not be included because we couldn't track those things.
when I say
Like,
the formula, it's like how the way you well, how I'm gonna put this, how you calculated it. Like other people calculate things differently to where it's different from y'all. So like I don't know.
I don't see no calculations nowhere. I have not seen no calculations on anybody's
Well,
page
he
on
did
any
explain the
platform.
calculations. He said
Sports
everything was
Fluent explained a
just
private conversation he had with
to
somebody
be
that we don't
Well,
just
honest,
know.
what is
because
sports?
I
he
have
What
never
is
explained the
seen a
what is
conversation
sports
formula
it
Fluent say
before.
doesn't
the
mean
calculations
anything.
were?
It's like he said everything was measured as a fraction of a point. Everything.
Everything. I don't know what everything is. That's what we're saying. We don't know what everything is. Like I have never really seen a formula that shows the greater player. So I have never seen one. I have never known one to be created in the first place. There's no official thing to do that. I know there are certain analytics that they measure, but they measure things according to pace of certain years. So that's not really a true measurement either. I know we did analytics, but Jordan analytics in 1992 is not going to be the same analytics in 2021. The pace and everything else is different. So even though Jordan scored higher in a certain era, is doesn't really translate to today. Like Johnny said before, they change formulas year by year. People add new formulas to be measured. Like it's kind of hard sometimes to say that a certain player is greater at this because of this analytic. It's kind of hard. But when we do VORP year by year, we measure that by that year. So that's what happened that year. The analytic stat is for that year. Jordan PER that year is going to be differently measured if Jordan had the same stats in 2022. Simple as that.
Man, all I know
It's,
is if you don't got LeBron or
Hey
Jordan as
guys, I
your
gotta go, man. I
top
just wanted to
two,
get up here and show some love, man.
I
all right,
appreciate you,
yeah,
Ron.
well,
Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh,
Um,
always, always.
yeah, listen,
yeah,
I
we
think
about to get off anyway, yo.
yeah, listen, we had three separate criteria. Brandon came up with his own, I came up with my own, and then we came up with this one. So like we said, it's easy to say what we want to say. We spent a whole 2 hours almost talking about what we think, and nobody knows no numbers until the numbers apply to the conversation. I find it funny. I sat here and listened to y'all, bro. I really did. I still don't know what a franchise player is. I still don't know how you measure that. And at the end of the day, what Brandon is just basically trying to explain to you, what you think a better player is not based on anything. We can't measure it. We're basically just saying it until we want to use stats, because that's what you guys do when you want to use stats. Like Travis said, we'll go to prime so that we can do it that way, and we're gonna go to your prime stats. So because your prime is based on, or your peak is based on your stats. So it's not based on your athleticism or anything like that. So, like I said, we want people to tell us, because we get challenged all the time. This is what you got to understand. People challenge us for how we think. and Brandon's criteria would have had Jordan number 2, but you guys said we need to count what was this? Seasonal titles.
There's no titles.
Yeah, right. You had to do that. I wouldn't have did advanced stats. Brandon said, you know what? But like Brandon says, people want to use it. Look how much we've been talking about advanced stats, and the fact that we're talking about advanced stats tells us about the criteria. Because each advanced stat we're talking about, there's an actual formula that we can go look at to see why Jordan has a PER number 1, why LeBron's number 1 in VORP, why Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is number 1 in win shares. There's an actual calculation for it, so we can. It could be an objective measure to use. But when you're just saying stuff just to say stuff, you can't just say Tracy McGrady's a better basketball player because you think he can dribble better than Tony Parker. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. If that's the case, every player today is better than all the players of all time. That means Stephon Marbury is better than Bob Cousy.
Skillfully, yes.
But he doesn't have a greater career. So he
Well, you heard my explanation there. I think there's
Chris
a difference
Webber
between a
is better than
player
Bob
and a
Pettit.
greater
Chris
player.
Webber is better than Bob Pettit because of skill. And if we're gonna go off skill, LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan.
Not skills. No.
Brandon, what do you think? Who has more skills, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
I mean, it's LeBron James. I only think it's close. I don't know what skills you're talking about with Michael Jordan.
No, man.
What skills you talking about?
Kevin Durant is definitely top 5 when it comes to skill. Kobe Bryant, skill, top 5 easily. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon is the most skilled center. He would be the greatest center of all time, hands down.
Well, you saying skill. You just been. What I said was
I'm
you
basing
can
it
have
off
a
of
difference
nothing.
between being a better player and having a greater career.
I'm basing it off of nothing, Craig. I'm just saying
You
it because
just
I
said
because
it.
of skill. No, because
Anthony Davis is more skilled than Tim Duncan. That doesn't mean Anthony Davis
Didn't have
is
a
a
greater
greater
career
player.
than Tim Duncan. He didn't have a
but
greater career.
but
than Tim
he's
Duncan.
more skilled.
So my point is this: for me, the better player is the player who has the greater career. That's for me. And Brandon, that's what Brandon's trying to explain.
And
to you.
then with that, like I said, with that, it comes with context.
At least that's how I think it. To me, that's the only way to measure who was the better player is by who had the greater career.
Well, who had better circumstances then? Because you put Tracy McGrady with a prime Duncan, you think he don't win 4 championships?
I thought we're not doing ifs.
No, but I'm just saying, like
you said we're not doing ifs, man.
Yeah, I think Tracy McGrady would have left. So no, Tracy McGrady would definitely left.
He's the one that said he wouldn't even accept the championship if they would have won it in 2013 because he said he was.
He left playing with Vince Carter because Vince Carter was the number 1 option. He said he needed to go somewhere else, so he definitely wouldn't stay with.
Remember, it was going to be him. It was going to be Tim Duncan and Grant Hill. That's the only reason why he wound up Atlanta, because Tim Duncan stayed in San Antonio because they wouldn't let his wife be on a team play. Can you?
So. See what I'm saying? So all these
circumstances, shit happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and being drafted to Michael Jordan was a horrible circumstance for plenty of players.
Because of a lot of those players.
Yeah, we're gonna get up out of here, man, because we had a good show. Thanks everybody that's in the comments, man. Any last words, Brandon?
Just basically, like I was saying, better player. Most likely is our opinion, who they think is better skill wise, and greater player is what we can measure for their career, who had the greater career. And that's why LeBron James was number 1, because he had the greater career. I know you guys will say that Michael Jordan had the better peak in your opinion, but better career is going to be LeBron James.
So, but even in your subjective take, as far as better, and as far as your objective take, which is greater, you say LeBron's the best player ever, correct?
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and I'm the same as him. My subjective take and my eye test tell me LeBron's the GOAT. And then when we take that away, LeBron is still the GOAT. We just go off the career and the numbers. So this is what we do at GOAT James Kingdom, y'all. We still challenge everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead,
man. You know, people like me, my favorite player of all time is Penny Hardaway. Like, that's who I grew up watching. That's why all these Jordan fans grew up watching Jordan. They would live and die that Michael Jordan is the greatest, because they don't really want to see someone better. They don't want to see someone better in their mind. So you know, Penny Hardaway, Vince Carter is my favorite players. I grew up watching them. They'll always be my favorite player because that's who I grew up watching. I didn't grow up watching LeBron James. damn near the same age. Why the hell would I grow up watching LeBron James? Like I grew up watching Penny Hardaway. That's who I wanted to be like. That's why he's my favorite player. That's why to this day Penny Hardaway is still my favorite player. And just like Jordan fans, their favorite player still is Michael Jordan. Neither one of them played a meaningful game in 25 years, and that's still our favorite player. But I'm able to understand that there's someone better. Oh, simple as
Yeah, I
that.
mean, it's just as simple as that. And we asked people to do it. I know Ralph said he had to get off or whatever, and we appreciate Ralph taking his time to come on. But again, Ralph, please show us these formulas because it's not that hard. If you show us a formula and we can understand it, because everybody seems to understand our formula. I don't think our formula is confusing. So you know what I mean? It's simple math. It's simple as hell, and that's what we do here in Goat James Kingdom, y'all. So it's been a great Sunday afternoon. Everybody enjoy their Sunday. You guys have a beautiful Sunday afternoon. Catch us on our TikTok channel, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We are all over the place. We're going to continue to do shows. I'll be live on TikTok tomorrow, and I'll be doing my Friday exposure as usual. So if you guys want to challenge each other, you can come on Friday Night Exposure. Goat James Kingdom Show is not for that. We'll be back next week with more about our criteria, and we'll break down some more. Right, Brandon? All right.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
All right, man. So y'all have a great Sunday. Peace and blessings, y'all. This is Goat James Kingdom Show with B. Lee and A. Johnny.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah, brother.